Simon, I want to start by talking to you about risk. We all understand, I think, what risk is in the real world, but we don't really, I think, understand it online, or at least that's what you are telling us.
Yeah, we're finding that the general population has a very poor understanding of risk. Many of them will understand the risks of conventional crime, their car theft, muggings, burglary. But when it comes to online crime, very few people have an understanding or the imagination to get what cyber criminals might be up to, and therefore where the threat lies.
So if that's true, how can we educate people to take more care online? Or indeed, can we educate people to take more care online?
We do need to educate them, and that's a lot of the work that we're doing at the moment in publishing articles and editorials to try and get businesses to understand, and indeed their customers to understand, the risks they're taking. There's a big hole, of course, about the younger generation. Schools are not teaching computing in the same way they used to, and they're not dealing with the risks of online activity. I think we talk mostly about the predators and the risks of paedophiles and things like that online, but we don't educate our children and our teenagers in the ways that cyber criminals may act. We will always say, don't go away with strangers, don't do this, don't do that in the physical world, but very few adults understand cybercrime well enough to educate their children.
Now, you're on record as saying that the internet is basically insecurable. You know, it is the fundamental thing about the internet is not secure. So if that's true, I mean, should we all pack up and go home? I mean, is all is lost sort of thing?
Well, I think the issue you're going to face is one of education and awareness. So yes, I do believe the internet is largely insecurable. And the reason why I make that claim is that we've seen the technology aspects for direct criminal attacks. So we put in the firewalls and we put in various antivirus tools, and that goes a long way to stopping direct attacks on us. But what we're starting to see is those indirect attacks, those socially engineered emails that people are starting to fall for. And they're not necessarily crimes directed immediately at you. So, for example, if I can encourage you because I know which school you've been at, because your Facebook page or your LinkedIn includes your education and your education years, I might create a very simple, easy school reunion website and email you as though I were one of your friends from 25 years ago. I may not actually want you to spend any money with me, but if I can get you to go to my school reunion website and create an account, i.e. just log on, it will all be free, you will create a user ID and password. And it's quite alarming that most people only have 3 passwords for everything they do. So I don't need to make you aware of that kind of threat. Even that side effect of registering on an unknown website with a standard user ID and password can be enough to give you some serious problems down the line.
Okay, so there are many ways in which the cyber criminal can attack us, and these socially engineered emails are clearly a big part of that. So are we getting to a stage now where it's going to be impossible to tell the difference between real and fake emails? And if that is the case, then it's going to render email an almost unusable tool, isn't it?
It can do, yes. That might be the way the email ends up, that it is just so ultimately insecurable at sensible levels because of the fakes and the fraud that can be undertaken through email, that ultimately email will be superseded by something. The question you've got to ask is when and how quickly could we supersede email as an insecure protocol in its standard form with something easier to use and ultimately secured? The answer is that's going to take a very long time. The world is currently heavily addicted to email. Businesses use it, government uses it, and most of us use it in our everyday lives. The odds of us getting a new email type solution where we see everything being replaced with a new secure level of email is probably untenable in the next 5 to 10 years.
So let's talk about the mkryptor solution to email, because obviously that is a solution that's here now that we can use straight away. How usable is it? I mean, how simple would it be for me today to encrypt my email?
Okay, very simple. Once it's set up, the only thing that you'd need to do is to type the hash encrypt at the top of the email. And the only reason why we ask people to do that is because we need to determine which of your emails you want to secure and which ones can be sent in clear, unprotected. We are aware that email, as a communication medium, not everything you send needs to be protected. If I'm meeting up with you and we're just arranging a time where we're meeting this afternoon at a coffee house, maybe not a particularly secure piece of information. If I want to send you your latest bank statements, your records, your will, your contracts, that contains confidential information. And all you need to do is just type hash encrypt to tell mkryptor that you want this email protected.
So it really is a very simple process, in which case, why isn't everybody doing it?
Well, the main issue is the 3 steps. First step, people need to understand email is insecure. I would say about 90% of the conversations I had with businesses up to 2 years ago would be spending over an hour arguing with those people that email is actually insecure and trying to convince them of the risk. The second problem, step 2, is one about priority. So if email is insecure, we very much get the attitude of, well, nothing's happened since. We've never had an email compromise. And we always have to respond with 2 things. Well, one is, that's like arguing I've never had a car crash, so I don't need to wear a seatbelt. You won't need that seatbelt until the day you have that car crash. Same with email. You don't even know your email has been intercepted and read and compromised. And quite often we give a scenario that says, well, we sit in a conference room with 1,000 people and I write a message on a piece of paper at the front, fold it in half and give it to the first person and ask them to pass it along the rows to the back of the conference. And then when it gets to the last person, I ask that person, how many people have read that email or that message on that piece of paper as it's been passed along? And the answer is, it's almost impossible to tell. And that's the same with email. You cannot detect that it has been compromised, and therefore you cannot assume sending clear email is fine just because you've never experienced a cyber attack or a breach of data.